My sister's video went viral, titled Mom's Diary. It features entries where our mom meticulously documented her 6,570 days and nights, each word brimming with love. She wrote about Mom's birth, tiny and wrinkly, yet your cries were so loud and strong, and, nice to meet you for the first time. The comments were filled with envious cries. It feels like a stray cat looking at a pet cat. Say goodbye to your aunt, she's my mom now. At the dinner table, I cautiously asked, Mom, what was I like when I was born? But she frowned and coldly replied, who remembers after all these years? I watched my sister's video while sitting on the cold iron chair in the hospital, unconsciously clutching the lab report in my hand. I remembered the doctor trying to be as gentle as possible, telling me, go home and discuss it with your parents, don't be scared. There is still a chance for a cure. At the age of 24, I developed a life-threatening growth in my brain. In the video, my sister included countless photos of her and our mom, each capturing the loving days I never experienced. There were 99 pictures, each accompanied by a brief text. I carefully read the captions and realized these were the diary entries Mom wrote for my sister, from her birth until she turned 18, 6,570 days and nights, not a single detail missed. I silently liked the video, then opened WeChat and scrolled to Mom's chat, after hesitating and revising my message several times. Unsure of how to start the conversation, after all, our last conversation was a month ago when she messaged me not to come home too early since my sister was preparing for her exams and my presence might distract her. After thinking it over, I bought a ticket home for the next day, deciding it's better to speak to Mom in person. I stashed the lab report at the bottom of my suitcase, barely sleeping that night, haunted by the fear that the thing in my brain might explode if I fell asleep. Before boarding the plane, I messaged Mom that I was coming home today. As expected, when I landed and checked my phone, she hadn't replied. It's always been like this. I knew she didn't like me. Both my parents were professors and were busy assisting in the development of the West when I was born, leaving me with my grandmother. They didn't return until I started elementary school, around the time my sister was born. Back then, they finally had time and raised my sister themselves, unlike me. My sister was bright, charming, confident, and well-liked. On one hand, there was me, raised in the countryside, plain and unnoticed, and on the other, my sister, lovingly raised and adored by everyone, leaning against the taxi window. I was filled with heavy thoughts and anxiety. Would Mom think I'm a burden if she knew about my illness? She often told me to be obedient, to ease the burden on her and Dad. So, for many years, I never spoke up about being bullied at school. Never asked for more allowance when I was short, never expressed my desires for things I liked. These issues troubled me right up to the moment I sat at the dining table, silently eating with Mom for half an hour, unable to muster the courage to tell her about my illness, because when I arrived home, Mom didn't show any particular joy. She merely glanced at me and said, "Dinner's ready, go wash your hands." Yet, Mom clearly wrote in her diary, "The happiest moment of each day is waiting for and to come home." She dives into my arms like a little bird, tilts her rosy little face up, and starts chattering away. I listen to every word, so don't you rush, my little chatterbox. As I absent-mindedly played with the grains of rice in my bowl, I finally mustered the courage to ask cautiously, "Mom, what was it like when I was born?" She furrowed her brows and responded coldly, "Who remembers something from so long ago?" But she clearly remembered my sister's birth, as she wrote about it, tiny and wrinkled, yet her cries were so loud and strong, and, nice to meet you for the first time. It turned out, that diary had no page for me. I bowed my head, my gathered courage dissipating completely. "Mom, I have things I want to say too, but you wouldn't listen." Just then, the sound of keys jingled at the door, and Mom's face lit up with a smile almost instantly. I heard my sister's crisp voice exclaim, "Mommy, your darling is back." Behind her was Dad, all smiles, carrying things with him. I watched my sister deftly burrow into Mom's embrace, calling out, "Mom," in various playful tones. Then she started chattering about all the fun she had on her trip. She had gone traveling after her college entrance exams and had just returned today. Sometimes I really admire my sister. She could make even a leaf on a tree sound fascinating. Mom showed no impatience, only gently patting her back and teasing. Such a big girl, still acting like a baby. Only then did my sister notice me. Her eyes sparkled with joy as she rushed towards me. I don't know why, but she has always been especially fond of me, ever since she was little. By the time I snapped out of my daze, she was already whispering in my ear, "Sis, sis, I've missed you so much, I'm so glad you're back." Her warmth and enthusiasm were overwhelming, and I was defenseless against them. That's also why I can't bring myself to dislike her. It's not her fault that Mom doesn't like me. I forced a smile and nodded my head. "All right, aren't you tired? Go take a shower and change. We'll go out for something delicious tonight. Is Sis coming too?" she asked, her eyes blinking like those of a fawn. Mom, somewhat helplessly, tapped her on the head. "Yes, everyone's going. Now go take your bath." My sister cheered and ran off. It made sense for her to ask. Since middle school, I've been at a boarding school. Over the years, I've spent more time at school than at home. Later, attending university and graduate school meant even fewer trips home. She used to call me, sounding pitiful, asking why I wouldn't come home, why I couldn't go to school with her. Of course, I couldn't because our parents didn't have time for me. They were busy taking her to school, amusement parks, and scenic spots. With one more child, they couldn't manage. I still remember the day Mom dropped me off at boarding school. She gave me some money and told me to message her if it ran out. Then she hurried off because my sister's favorite cake shop was closing. She didn't care if I would be scared starting boarding school alone. As I was preparing to leave, packing in my room, I really didn't want to spoil my sister's mood. But suddenly, a headache struck, and I collapsed to the ground, white-faced. After resting for a while, I finally opened my eyes. I had scraped a large patch on my arm and, feeling dizzy, I threw myself onto the bed. When my sister came to call me, I no longer had the strength to stand up. She knocked on the door for a long time before I managed to respond hoarsely, "I'm not feeling well, I won't go." Upon hearing this, my sister became anxious and asked what was wrong. When I didn't answer, she ran to get our parents. Mom knocked a few times and called out my name, "Rainy, Rainy." I bit my tongue and replied, "Mom, I'm not feeling well, can't you just hang in there? Your sister really wants you to go." The world seemed to spin before my eyes, beads of sweat formed on my forehead, and I could no longer speak. "Forget it, the medicine box is in the study cabinet. Find whatever you need, we're leaving now." "Mom, save me," I cried out in my heart. Their footsteps faded, and my consciousness plunged into darkness, my body sinking endlessly, the monsters in my mind threatening to swallow me, but no one would save me, not even my parents. When I woke up again, it was nearly midnight. I struggled to get up, the sharp pain in my arm a reminder of my recent episode. I remembered the doctor's words, that in severe cases, I might experience hallucinations, hear things, or even lose consciousness without knowing what I was doing. At that moment, I was terrified. For the first time, I clearly realized that I could die in agony. I grabbed my phone to call my mom, but I couldn't get through. As I stood there, bewildered, my phone notified me that my sister had posted a new video. It showed my parents accompanying her to watch fireworks. The splendid fireworks burst one after another, Mom's eyes twinkling with joy, Dad taking photos. The caption read, "And this is your 18th year in this world. Thank you for being here, Mom loves you forever." A new day began, and my sister stepped into her 18th year. While I faced the threat of death alone in an empty room, tears fell one by one from my eyes as I kept replaying my sister's video. I wanted to know what the happiness I never had felt like. I learned that on my sister's first day of kindergarten, Mom secretly cried. She wrote, September 1st, 2004. "The weather is overcast. Actually, it's sunny, but my mood is gloomy. Mayan is going to kindergarten. I'm so worried about her. Just yesterday, she was such a little person, and today she has to go to school." I secretly cried. Simon laughed at me, but don't think I didn't see him crying too. But I never went to kindergarten. My education started at home with my grandmother teaching me. I read on about my sister's first award, and is amazing. She received an award for being a good student. She came home and boasted non-stop, "Truly my daughter, okay, okay." Today she's allowed one extra ice cream. Looking back, I gazed at the cabinet behind me filled with various certificates and trophies, all earned in the hope of making my mom love me a bit more. Every time I carefully presented a certificate or trophy to Mom, she would just nod her head and calmly say, "Not bad." Yet it turned out that all these trophies and certificates were nothing compared to a single good student award for my sister. My eyes stung, pain spreading through my heart. And received a love letter today, haha, she even tried to hide it. Unfortunately, I caught you red-handed, and is a charming girl, and that male classmate admitted you have good taste, but no, it's not happening. Simon also found out and insisted on driving into school tomorrow to see who dares to mess with his cabbage. There's nothing I can do now, and you're on your own, and has become a big girl today. This morning, she woke up in a panic and said, "Mom, I'm bleeding. Do I have a serious illness?" I told her, "Silly child, this is a sign of growing up. It's okay if you don't understand. I'll be here to guide you slowly. For starters, let me buy you your favorite little cake." Time flies, and is already in high school. I still feel like she's that little girl who never grew up, making me sentimental again. Simon comforted me, saying and has to grow up, but once she does, she will one day leave me. I don't want her to grow up. Today, I'm just a capricious little girl myself. After flipping through so many diaries from start to finish, I finally realized something. My mother doesn't love me. I don't know when I ran out of tears, my fingertips trembling and turning white as I tapped on my phone. I once thought my parents loved me because they provided for me and never mistreated me, but it turns out that wasn't love, just responsibility. Those 6 years apart, no amount of time can bring back, sitting on the cold floor. I tidied up my clothes, one piece at a time. I packed up all my belongings. I kept busy until 3 a.m., unable to stop. If I didn't keep busy, I would go mad. The only thought left in my mind was to erase everything. A child unloved by their parents doesn't need to exist in this world. I heard them coming home midway. For a moment, I wanted to confront them and ask why they didn't love me, why my sister had what I didn't. But as I grabbed the doorknob, I heard my sister quietly asking, "Sis, are you asleep? I brought you a cake. Are you still feeling bad? If you are, I'll leave it here for you to eat tomorrow morning. I saved the biggest piece especially for you." In that instant, I lost all my courage. I am no longer happy, but my sister must continue to be happy. After getting everything ready, I sat on the floor hugging my knees, waiting for daylight. I bought a ticket for the last flight back to school. At 7 in the morning, I dragged my suitcase, ready to leave home with my head hung low. As I opened the door, my mother suddenly called out to me, "Leaving? So early?" Yeah, I didn't have the strength to respond further. I saw a hint of tiredness on my mother's calm face. "If you're busy, go ahead, but can you come back next week? Your sister wants to go on a family picnic, and she really wants you to be there." "And what about you, Mom?" I couldn't help but ask. She seemed a bit surprised. "I'm fine either way, Mom." My grip on the suitcase tightened. "If I become a dog in my next life, will you recognize me?" I asked this out of the blue, still harboring a sliver of hope for how my mother might respond, but my mother just frowned and said, "Don't talk nonsense. If you're not feeling well, rest for a day before you leave." "I understand." Holding back tears, I said these words and left without looking back. She didn't notice. Behind the mask, my face was tear-stained. She didn't remember. My sister had once asked her the same question, and suddenly asked me today if she becomes a dog in her next life, would I still keep her? I tapped her on the head and playfully scolded her, calling her a silly child. How could Mom not recognize Anne? It doesn't matter if it's a puppy, a kitten, a bird, or even a cockroach. I would bring her home and build her a little house, and will always be Mom's Anne, and will always be Mom's Anne. And Rainy will always be the Rainy that nobody wants. In a daze, I dragged my suitcase onto the plane, then off it again, until I reached the school. Since it was summer vacation, the campus was nearly empty. Unsure of where to go, I aimlessly wandered around with my suitcase. I didn't even know why I had returned to school. Perhaps it was the only place I felt I could stay. Sitting on a bench by the lake, I stared blankly at the calm water. As I watched, suddenly the scenery before my eyes seemed to twist and change. I clutched my head in pain, enduring a loud buzzing in my ears. After what felt like an eternity, I opened my eyes. My headache was gone, but before me was a vast field of sunflowers, dazzling and inviting. It felt so warm. I took a few steps forward, basking in the delightful fragrance. I started running and plunged deep into the field of flowers. A blinding white light suddenly expanded before my eyes, and I gradually lost consciousness. Faintly, I could hear someone shouting, "Quick, help, someone's fallen into the water." Who was it? I tried hard to open my eyes, but my body felt so warm and cozy. Maybe it was okay to just keep sleeping. Sarah felt uneasy, her left eyelid twitching uncontrollably. Simon came out of the room, and Sarah called to him, "Simon." Rainey got up early and went back to school, but I have a bad feeling. Do you think something's wrong? Simon picked up a watering can by the window and started watering the plants, trying to reassure her. You worry too much. Rainey has always been independent and sensible. Maybe she had something urgent to attend to. Sarah sighed. I always feel like she's lost in her thoughts all day, not really connecting with us. Suddenly, Simon remembered something and put down the watering can. Rainey left without a word, and doesn't even know yet. She'll be upset when she finds out. I'll head to the morning market and buy some of her favorite snacks to cheer her up. Sarah also felt a bit resentful. She was in such a hurry. She should have at least said goodbye to her sister, and was thinking about her all day yesterday. She even saved the biggest piece of cake for her. Let's not talk about it now. We'll find time to have a good talk with her later. Sarah saw Simon out and then hurried back to the kitchen to make breakfast. She thought that making Anne's favorite breakfast might cheer her up, but she hadn't noticed that Rainey had left without having a hot meal. When I woke up again, I blankly stared at the pristine white ceiling above. The smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils, and it took me a while to focus my eyes. Rainey, you're finally awake. You scared me to death. Turning towards the voice, I was surprised to see my advisor, struggling. I tried to sit up. Professor Riley, I'm sorry for the trouble. Don't move. Let me help you, she said, her face a mix of concern and slight anger. She adjusted my bed to help me sit comfortably, and I looked at her apologetically. Are you thirsty, hungry? She asked. Her concern warmed my heart. It had been a long time since anyone had cared for me this much. I shook my head. She sighed, her expression turning serious. Rainey, can you tell me why you jumped into the lake? Whatever trouble you're facing, you can talk to me about it. Hearing her words, I paused, jumped into the lake. Suddenly, I remembered something, then my face turned pale, and I started hallucinating. It wasn't a field of sunflowers, it was just an illusion. This meant that my condition was very serious. This time I had thought about jumping into a lake. Next time, I might run into traffic on a noisy street or jump from a high building. I lowered my head, my voice barely audible. I'm sorry. Seeing me like this, Ms. Riley took my hand, her warm touch dispelling some of my anxiety. With deep concern, she said, Rainey, whatever you're facing, it can be resolved. I've always felt you were too reserved, keeping everything bottled up inside. I want you to know that I'm here to listen. You don't have to face everything alone. As she spoke, tears began to well up in my eyes. She said she was willing to listen to me. Ms. Riley, thank you for being willing to talk to me. But it's not that I'm giving up. Tears silently fell as I lifted my reddened eyes, choking up as I spoke. Ms. Riley, I might be dying. How could that be? She asked, worried. Ms. Riley, I don't think I'm going to make it. After saying this, I began to cry loudly, and Ms. Riley immediately came to hug me. I clutched at her clothes as I sobbed uncontrollably in her warm embrace, pouring out my fears. When I received the diagnosis, my mind went blank. I was terrified. I didn't want to die. All the pain and fear finally had an outlet because someone was willing to listen. By the end of my story, sadness had washed over Ms. Riley's face. She looked at my diagnosis report incredulously, over and over again. In the end, with tears in her eyes, she told me, it's okay, don't be afraid, there are treatments available, and asked if I had told my parents. I shook my head, asking her not to tell them. When she asked why, I turned my head away. I don't want to cause them any trouble. Ms. Riley's eyes, already red, filled with more tears. She turned away to wipe them. No wonder, she said. No wonder you came to school alone on the first day. She took my hand again. I've always thought you were excellent and kind, just not good at opening up. Promise me, don't give up. Okay, let's keep trying. Okay, I nodded vigorously. So it was that Ms. Riley took on the role of my mother, accompanying me through my treatment. She used her connections to consult many renowned doctors. But each one shook their head after reviewing my scans. My disease was rare, and chemotherapy had almost no effect on me. To manage the pain, I had to take a lot of painkillers. In less than 2 months, my episodes and hallucinations became more frequent. To prevent any accidents, Ms. Riley gave me a GPS watch. Once again, unable to sleep due to pain, I curled up in my hospital bed and checked my sister's latest social media update. Without me, they still went on a family camping trip. Even wearing matching outfits, my usually stern professor father smiled brightly in the photos, making a peace sign. Big sister, we went camping today. It's a pity you weren't there. Why are you always so busy? Am I really your favorite little sister? And still sent me a message. I didn't have the energy to type, so I replied with a voice message. Sorry, and I'll definitely join you next time, if there is a next time, and attentive as always. Noticed the weakness in my voice and became anxious. Sister, why does your voice sound so weak? Are you sick? You really need to take care of yourself. I'm fine, just a bit of a cold. I'll be better after some medicine and sleep. Then I won't disturb you further. Rest well, sister. I'll be waiting for you to come back home. She even sent a rabbit emoji, bouncing around just like her. No wonder everyone likes Anne. I should have disliked her, but I just couldn't. After several rounds of ineffective treatments, Ms. Riley's frown deepened. I didn't want her to worry, so no matter how much pain I was in, I would insist I was fine in front of her. That was until once again, I pretended to be fine and smiled in front of her. Ms. Riley couldn't hold back anymore. She burst into tears, gasping for breath. I was completely taken aback and could only start apologizing. I'm sorry, Ms. Riley, I'm fine, really, it doesn't hurt. That statement broke the last strand of her patience, and she hugged me and cried loudly. My poor child, what did you do to deserve this? Why does fate have to be so cruel to you? Exhausted from crying, Ms. Riley dried her tears and started persuading me, though you might not like it. I think it's time to let your parents know about your condition. She said it reluctantly, but we both knew my condition was severe, and I could lose my life at any moment. I paused for a moment and then shook my head again. I don't know what your parents did to you, but this is no joke, Rainey. I don't want you to be alone without any family by your side in the end. Ms. Riley was right, but I just didn't want to. I took out my phone and found a video of my sister, Ms. Riley. I appreciate your kindness, but I have my reasons. Ms. Riley, do you know, my mother's diary doesn't have a page for me. My words were abrupt, but Ms. Riley listened carefully, so I started sharing all the details, expressing my thoughts word by word. By the end, Ms. Riley's eyes were red again. I didn't want her to cry, so I quickly added, besides these things, they never treated me poorly. I've never lacked anything. After hearing this, Ms. Riley suddenly stood up and ran out. I heard faint crying outside the door. Ms. Riley didn't come back that day. I knew she was worried about me. After she left, I quietly took out a notebook hidden under my pillow and began to write. August 15th. Sunny, Ms. Riley heard the secrets I've kept for so long, and I made her cry again. I'm really sorry. My illness might be incurable, but I feel lucky to have Ms. Riley with me during the last stages of my life. I hope she has a peaceful and smooth life ahead, as good people deserve long lives. Ms. Riley didn't show up for 3 whole days after that. She suddenly rushed in, her face brimming with joy. Rainey, the teacher has found a way to save you. I didn't pay much attention to her words, only noticing her bloodshot eyes and dark circles. It seems that Ms. Riley has been staying up late for me these past few days. Rainey, it's true this time. Seeing that I had no reaction, Ms. Riley sat down and took my hand. She told me that a friend of hers had referred a doctor in Germany who had cases of curing my illness and suggested that I could try going there for treatment. Hearing this, hope surged within me, but soon I became a bit worried. Ms. Riley, won't this cost a lot of money? You've already helped me so much. I can't let you spend more. Ms. Riley looked at me disapprovingly when she heard this. I'm like your mother, and there's no such thing as a mother spending too much on her daughter. Hearing Ms. Riley's words, I couldn't hold back any longer. She said she was my mother, willing to be my mother. With a heart heavy with emotion, I timidly asked, Ms. Riley, can I call you Mom? Ms. Riley was taken aback, then nodded vigorously. So for the first time, I tried calling out, Mom, as I embraced her. It felt so warm, just like the real thing. On the day I left for Germany, it coincidentally was my sister's first day at university. Before boarding, I replied to her message, and, happy first day of school. Your sister wishes you a world of great achievements. Take good care of yourself, and replied, thanks, sis, I'll definitely come to visit you during my holidays, and sent a photo with our parents. Dad was giving a thumbs up, and Mom was proudly holding her head high. I typed and retyped before finally sending, and, please take care of Mom and Dad from now on, and, puzzled, replied, what do you mean? What are you talking about? sis. It's nothing. I've just been really busy and might not have time to be with them. You scared me, don't worry, I've grown up, I'll take good care of them, okay? After typing the last word, I turned and boarded the plane. Upon arriving in Germany and meeting the specialist, she told us that there indeed was a chance to cure the illness, but the effects of treatment could vary depending on individual physiology. Ms. Riley asked what the chances of success for the surgery were. And the answer was less than 30%. Hearing this, Ms. Riley visibly lost heart. I smiled and comforted her. The doctors back home said there was only a 10% chance. 30% is actually quite good. Fortunately, because my condition was rare and of research interest, the hospital agreed to waive most of the medical fees, not to mention the help from Ms. Riley's friend. Before the surgery, the doctor informed me of all possible consequences. I might not survive the surgery, or I could suffer nerve damage and lose function, or even lose my memory. After knowing all the risks, I signed my name on the surgery consent form. On the day of the surgery, I handed my diary to Ms. Riley. I told her that everything I wanted to say was written down in it, thanking her for letting me experience a mother's love like never before. Ms. Riley held my hand tightly, unwilling to let go. I finally gently embraced her, whispering in her ear. I said, "Ms. Riley, you are my mother. In my next life, I want to be your real daughter." Before the door to the operating room closed, I saw Teacher Riley clutching her diary, collapsing to the floor in tears. I opened my eyes wide to firmly imprint her image in my mind. I must not forget. At 8 p.m. local time, Sarah was handling her work as usual when she opened her email and surprisingly found a timed message from Rainey. She wondered why Rainey would send an email when a message would do. Curious. She opened the email and was shocked to see a video featuring a pale, ill-looking Rainey. In the video, Rainey appeared extremely weak, clad in a hospital gown and sitting on a hospital bed, struggling to breathe. It seemed like she was on the brink of death. Sarah was dumbfounded. Was this Rainey? She looked terribly sick. It couldn't be true. Rainey had been fine just 3 months ago. Sarah thought it must be some sick joke. Panicking, she called Simon over. As Simon watched the email with a grave expression, he immediately tried calling Rainey, but there was no answer. Sarah was distraught as Simon continued to play the video. "Mom, it's Rainey. I shouldn't bother you, but after you raising me for over 20 years, I owe you an explanation. This might as well be my last letter," Rainey said, gasping for air. Sarah was still in shock, wondering why Rainey was talking about a last letter. "I'm sorry to cause you worry at the end. There's something growing in my brain and the doctors say it's hard to cure. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I wanted to find a quiet place to die, but Ms. Riley convinced me not to give up, so I secretly went for treatment. I'm now in Germany and will undergo surgery tomorrow. There are some things I need to explain. If I don't make it, please don't blame Ms. Riley. It was my decision not to tell you. Also, Ms. Riley has covered a lot of my medical expenses. I hope you can repay her for me. That debt is mine to bear, and if there is a next life, I will repay you." Rainey's voice broke and her eyes reddened. Sarah collapsed into her chair, overwhelmed by the shock. Then Rainey spoke again. "Mom, I know I shouldn't resent you, but I still want to ask. Am I not even worth a page in your diary? Mom, do you love me?" The video abruptly ended, leaving Sarah and Simon in a long, heavy silence, almost like statues. This silence was broken by Simon's phone ringing with the caller ID, Sweet. In an instant, Sarah grabbed the phone and answered. "How could you play such a joke on us, Rainey? It's not funny." Sarah almost shouted these words, her voice trembling, until a timid voice spoke. "Mom, it's me, I'm not Rainey." Sarah incredulously took the phone and checked twice. She stared at Simon with wide eyes and demanded, "Why is Sweet not Rainey?" Simon, still in a state of shock from the video, was flustered by Sarah's intense questioning. He frantically searched for Rainey's contact info but only found it simply saved as Rainey, Y is and Sweet, and Rainey just Rainey, he thought, just as Sarah, frantic, ran outside, stumbling several times. By the time he caught up, they were already on a plane. It was the first time Simon saw Sarah, with tears in her eyes, causing a scene at Rainey's school administration office. "Where is my daughter? Let me see my daughter. I want to see my daughter. Rainey, my daughter, I want to see her." Simon had been by Sarah's side for over 50 years, and she had never lost her composure even in the toughest times. Suddenly, Simon felt a disturbing calmness, but this calmness shattered the moment he saw Rainey, lifeless in the hospital room. He collapsed to the ground, realizing that it wasn't calmness but disbelief. Sarah clung to Riley's clothes, refusing to let go, repeatedly saying, "How could you not tell me? Why didn't you tell me? I'm going to sue you. I'm going to report you." Watching this couple who had arrived too late, something snapped in Riley. She began to hysterically question them. "Why shouldn't I tell you? Don't you have any idea, after all these years? Have you ever cared about her? How can there be parents like you? Have you ever really seen Rainey? What does she like to eat? What does she enjoy? Do you know? How many birthdays have you celebrated with her?" On the first day of grad school, out of 5 students, she was the only one whose parents didn't show up. "Where were you?" Sarah was jolted by these relentless questions, fear and panic setting in. She instinctively looked for help, only to see Simon crumpled like a broken man. Despair and regret were evident in their eyes. Sarah's grip on Riley's hand weakened until she collapsed on the floor. Both aged a decade in a matter of days, Sarah's only movement was to try and get closer to Rainey, until her body was pressed against the wall. After a moment of stupor, she touched her face, only to realize it was streaked with tears. She vaguely recalled Rainey's unusual behavior, how she had suddenly come home one day and left early the next morning. She had said she wasn't feeling well. She had clearly said it. How could she not have checked on her, leaving her alone at home? She remembered Rainey asking her what she looked like at birth, and how she couldn't recall anything at that moment. Rainey was her first child. How could she forget? The pain of abandoning her was so intense that she thought ignoring it would make it go away, but it also made her forget. She had forgotten. At Rainey's birth, she had wished her a healthy and happy life. She had forgotten. During her first encounter with a sandstorm in the northwest, how relieved she was that Rainey was safe and sound at home. Sarah always felt Rainey was distant, perhaps because when Rainey saw her at 6, she was timid and wouldn't lift her head. The missing 6 years had left her unsure of how to start fostering affection, and then Anne was born, and was noisy and captured all her attention. As she raised and from a tiny baby, naturally, more of her emotions and efforts were invested in her. So her heart gradually shifted until there was no room left for Rainey. Now, regret was useless. Sarah was a materialist, but from now on, she prayed daily to every deity, just hoping her comatose daughter would wake up. It was the 7th day, and Rainey was still in a coma. Riley, flipping through her diary, couldn't stop crying. After 3 days of despair, the couple seemed to come back to life. They refused to leave the hospital, fighting for every visiting hour. Sarah mustered the courage to apologize to Riley. Once she came to her senses, she was grateful to Riley for extending a helping hand to Rainey. Otherwise, she would have completely lost her. Looking at the submissive Sarah, Riley couldn't bear to be harsh. She handed Rainey's diary to her. If Rainey never woke up, this would be the only memory left. Sarah thanked Riley profusely, hugging the diary tightly. She took out her glasses and carefully opened it. July 10th, cloudy. "This is my first time keeping a diary. I've thought long about whom to write to, so I'll write to myself first. Rainey, thank you for walking this path alone. You've been amazing." After years of hardship, the tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she remembered Rainey's question about why her page was missing from the diary. Indeed, why was it missing? How could she not have written even a single word? July 20th, sunny weather. "The weather is great today, perfect for hiking, if possible. I'd love to invite Ms. Riley to hike with me. I'm even a bit greedy, wishing to wear matching outfits with her." Sarah's heart ached abruptly. That day was supposed to be their family camping trip with Anne. While their family of 3 joyfully took photos, Rainey was alone, curled up in her hospital bed. She never knew that Rainey liked hiking. August 1st, cloudy weather. "I fell ill again, but this time, my hallucinations were somewhat childish. I imagined myself as a princess, wearing a gown layered with pearls. I'm an adult. How could I still fancy princess dresses?" Sarah was sobbing uncontrollably because the princess dress Rainey mentioned was a gift for Anne's 8th birthday. August 10th, sunny weather. "I made Ms. Riley cry again today because the treatment was ineffective. It's really tough on me too. Please, dear God, give me some luck." August 20th, sunny weather. "I don't have the strength to write today. I'll just be lazy and draw a flower instead. Ms. Riley, stay happy." August 28th, rainy weather. "I'm about to leave for Germany soon, hoping for some good news. I really don't want to die. nor do I want to see Ms. Riley cry again, and messaged me today, hoping I could see her off to school. Sorry, little sister, your big sister can't make it. September 26th, sunny weather. Tomorrow, I'll be entering the operating room. And surprisingly, I'm calm, having made it this far. Even if the outcome isn't good, it's okay, Ms. Riley. If you're reading this now, please don't be sad for me. Thank you for being with me during this time. There's so much I wanted to say, but now I don't know what to write. Ms. Riley, take care of yourself. Even from heaven, I'll be watching over you. Sarah and Simon flipped through the diary from beginning to end, only to realize that Rainey hadn't left them a single word. Was this her way of getting back at them? Sarah wondered, realizing how painful it was to be absent from Rainey's diary. She leaned on Simon, crying uncontrollably. I never thought I'd open my eyes again. It felt like I had been asleep for a long time, dreaming a lengthy dream. When I woke up, the first people I saw were Ms. Riley and the others, all with red-rimmed eyes. The doctor said I was very lucky. Though I would need to continue taking medication, my life was saved. Ms. Riley told me about what had happened during the time I was unconscious. He said it was up to me to decide whether to forgive them or not. Looking at their cautious expressions, I felt conflicted, but I couldn't help it. I didn't know how to interact with them, how to face them. When I said this, I saw the light fade from my mother's eyes, but she still forced a smile and said it was okay, we'd take it slow. These past few days, both my parents have apologized to me repeatedly. It's not that I can't forgive them, it's just been too long, so long that I no longer hold on to any expectations. It seems that I may never be able to form a close bond with them again. After spending another month in Germany, on the day I was supposed to return home, and hugged me tightly with tears in her eyes, refusing to let go, my parents told her that I was still very weak, which finally made her release me. She looked me over from head to toe and then burst into tears after muttering, "You've lost weight." I was at a loss for words while and kept crying and apologizing. She knew everything. My parents hadn't kept anything from her. She had hidden all the videos and deleted all her social media posts. I tried to reassure her that it was okay, that all that was just expressions of love she deserved, but and was stubbornly frightening. She told me, if you don't have it, I shouldn't have it either. They initially wanted to take me back home, but I insisted on staying in the city where Teacher Riley lived. I had a serious talk with my mom and told her, maybe our familial bond is just too weak. I can't accept your love anymore. My mom cried, but she respected my decision. In the end, both she and my dad kept looking back as they boarded the plane. Since then, and hardly ever went home. Every vacation she would come to see me, stubbornly refusing to take money from home and finding ways to earn money through part-time jobs. She always carefully selected gifts for every festival and my birthday. I know she's burdened herself, and I tell her it's not her fault, but with tears in her eyes, she would say, "Sis, if I don't do this, I feel terrible, like I'm going to die." I sighed, unable to do anything but let her be. My mom also started sending packages frequently, filled with odd items like hair clips, teddy bears, Barbie dolls, fairy wands, and even princess dresses. Apparently, she found out from Teacher Riley that I liked grapefruits. She'd send me a big bag of meticulously peeled grapefruits, completely free of any pith, and all sorts of my favorite dishes, always stuffing the fridge full. My dad, on the other hand, would climb various mountains, sending me photos afterward, along with detailed guides and his reviews, always cautiously asking if I wanted to go. I understand, they want to make it up to me, but I'm no longer that 6-year-old girl. Things are pretty good as they are now. I have my life, and they have theirs. I've formally acknowledged Teacher Riley as my godmother. Teacher Riley said she didn't want to be my mom in the next life because she wants to be my mom now. At the end of my 24th year, I finally found happiness. Extra story. From Sarah's perspective, I came to secretly check on Rainey again. Today is her birthday. I left the gift at her door. I spent so much time picking it out, but I have no idea if she'll like it. It's been a while since I last saw her. She looks thinner, and I can't help but wonder if she's been eating properly. I caught a glimpse of Anne. She flew over, too. I envy Anne. She can hug Rainey and cuddle in her arms like it's the most natural thing in the world. I wish I could hug my Rainey again, but I know she'd only feel uneasy if she saw me. Simon snapped a few sneaky photos on his phone. mumbling about how he should bring his camera next time because the distance was making everything blurry. Tonight, they're having dinner at Ms. Riley's house. I begged Ms. Riley to let me prepare a few dishes for the meal. She gave me a complicated look and said she'd try to talk to Rainey. I was grateful, and a little nervous. What if Rainey realized the food was made by me? Later, Ms. Riley told me that Rainey said the dishes were delicious. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her birthday passed. Simon and I stayed nearby until midnight, watching her house until the lights in her room went out. Only then did we reluctantly leave. The next day, Simon rushed out to develop the photos, while I, as usual, slipped into Rainey's old room to sit for a while. When we returned from Germany, Rainey's room had been emptied, everything had been packed into a few boxes. It was then I truly understood the depth of her disappointment. She wanted to erase every trace of herself from this home. Simon and I cried as we painstakingly unpacked and restored her room. It took so much effort to put it back together again. While sorting through her things, I discovered how extraordinary Rainey really was. There were so many trophies, so many honors. I regretted not praising her more. From that day on, Simon and I started buying things. Dolls, pretty dresses, cute toys. We filled her room with them, until it no longer felt so empty. That way, I could fool myself into believing Rainey hadn't left. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a box of crayons, placing it gently on her desk. Then I picked up a nearby diary, put on my glasses, and began to write carefully. March 25, 2004. Sunny, today is Rainey's 6th birthday. I bought her favorite crayons, with 24 colors. Rainey, Mom promises to listen to you this time, whether you turn into a little kitten, puppy, or bunny. Mom will love you, always and forever. As I finished the last word, a tear fell onto the diary's page. But it was all too late. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.